Welcome to the Unsidelined Life, the podcast that challenges and encourages women to stop denying themselves a full life and to step boldly into the opportunities God is preparing for you. Join me for raw insights and engaging conversations to guide your journey of self-discovery and pursue the life that God created for you. Welcome to the Unsidelined Life. This is your host, Eileen coming back at you. It's been a while. I know not for me, but I know not for you guys, but for me. So thank God for Pod Up. I'm plugging them right now. This is the company or the organization that I use to help me pump out content, and they take it from there. And so with this whole podcast thing, I actually had conversations with NFL wives prior to even knowing that I was going to do a podcast. So there was a couple of wives that, whether we had time together on the same team or, they were getting out as I was getting in or vice versa. And I was like, if you saw that one, a couple weeks ago with Christiana Cook. So there's these conversations that I've had with these wives. And it was like, hey, are you okay if we, if just record these, and who knows, it may or may not be a podcast. And lo and behold, here I am with them. And so I have been able to I'm kind of ahead of the game. So I have probably a couple more weeks of content where I have not been in front of the camera. I have not been doing these podcasts, these solo ones. So a couple reasons why. I have been focusing on writing. So the beauty about doing this podcast is, one, I get to share, I get to kind of teach, share my stories and encourage women. I also get to focus on the speaking aspect of things. So I'm getting more of that, just pumping out that kind of thing. And then I get to focus on writing. And that's my biggest thing is writing. I'm a writer more than anything else. And so I've been ton of focus on that. I've been kind of just in this cave of writing. So there's a couple things that I'm hoping to get done. My goal is December, who knows, but I want to do, right now I'm working on Proverbs 31, the Lady Bellator edition. And then I'm also working on this book where I am going to be talking about, and I've talked about this before, but I'm going to be talking about the different conversations that I've had, that I continue to have with the kids as I help them navigate through this whole thing. If you've not watched a podcast before, my ex-husband, who used to be in the NFL, who was a very outspoken Christian, he turned and shifted to a belief and a teaching that we could no longer follow. It has to do with Black Hebrew Israelites, has to do with polygamy, back to the law. And really, again, I won't get into on this one. So watch episodes before I get my book. It is about us navigating through to having to step out of a situation that we knew was toxic, that we knew was not of the Lord. Basically, we in a nutshell, we had stepped out hoping that he would, come back to his senses and realize what was on the line. And, he just believed that what he's following was the right thing to do. And so helping my kids navigate through that and in a way where, as best as we can, we're honoring him. I want them to know that I'm mom who has forgiven, who's praying for their father, who's praying for restoration, who's helping them navigate. If you can imagine, this was 7 years ago. I was pregnant with number 8. He is now 6. So the conversation of, gosh, you've never met your biological father. I have my daughter who is 10. At the time she was 3. So helping her during those times, a simplistic way of saying, Lord, how do I help her to understand what's going on? And so that conversation at 3 is very different now at 10. And, even last week, gosh, just these conversations with her of making sure she knows that she's loved, that she's valued, that as a girl, God did not make a mistake, because we were told in this teaching that women aren't created in the image of God. We're told that our value comes from having babies and what's in between our legs and serving our husbands, and that our salvation is determined by our obedience to our spouse. And that's what this teaching is. And so to help her navigate through so that she knows her identity in Christ. So not only for me, but for her. And that's where the third book project comes along, is I'm actually going to be kind of teaming up with her, because she's an amazing artist. She's so talented. I'm going to be doing a children's book with her. So it's kind of like her influence. So she obviously not an illustrator yet, but we're going to be doing, hopefully, what I'm actually like encouraging or declaring is a little Lady Bellator series, so that moms can come alongside their daughters to teach them God's definition of a woman versus the world's way, versus the broken church or the religious spirit's way. So that's what I had, is this teaching that, again, wasn't created in the image of God, all these things, and really just kind of putting down a woman. And then the opposite side of things is the world says, be this certain way, make the money, disrespect men. So I'm not about that either. I want my daughter to know her value. I want her to know her role. I want her to know that God created her by the grace of God to be wife, to be mom, and to live out her calling. And so those are the three projects that I'm doing in regards to writing. And so I have not been in front of the camera, basically. And so here's another thing too. When I'm not like that, like I'm an introvert, I could, my husband may say differently, but I really feel like I can go all day without talking. And so when I'm in this mode, and when I'm in writing mode, especially, it's like, I don't really want to talk. And so here, the title of this message today is called Not About Me. And I'm like, I don't feel like doing this. I don't want to get on the camera, but it isn't about me. It's about you. And it's about encouraging you. And so I'm pushing through. So even this title, although that's not what I mean when I say not about me, I am pushing through to say, hey, like I want to be there for my audience. I want to be there for the people that, the women that need encouragement. And so I'm on here as much as I, like it's like, and I'm good. I just need to prime the pump. I'm just so, when I get quiet, it's kind of like, was it Newton's law, that kind of thing, where an object in motion stays in motion, an object at rest stays at rest. It's kind of like that. Like I've been at rest with my mouth and I'm not a talker. So now that I'm talking, I'm going to get through this. And here's another thing too. This is why I feel, and I think I could be wrong, but I'm like, gosh, why is there such resistance? I feel like it's been really hard for me to do this one. I actually, this Not About Me episode, I actually did it last week and I wasn't feeling it and I deleted it, and I wish I didn't now. I'm having such a hard time doing it. So today I've probably been sitting my booty here for the last hour, and like my internet's messing up, someone's walking in, I'm getting distracted, and I'm like, forget it, I don't want to do it. So I'm pushing through. I've got 20 minutes to tell you guys about this whole thing about Not About Me. So hopefully I will get it, because I've talked about this so much. I don't remember what I said or what I didn't say, but here we go. So Not About Me. Let me backtrack a little bit. I have told you guys before, if you haven't watched other episodes, but I used to be a strength coach for a college. I loved it. I was a physical strength coach, so meaning that I helped athletes with their specific sport training, running, jumping, lifting weights, all those things. And I loved it. I just felt like that was my purpose. During that time, I came to know the Lord. That became even more a passion, was to love up on people, was to be a spiritual strength coach, to encourage them to have a relationship with the Lord, to walk with him, to know him. I, helped bring people to church. I would have Bible studies with the girls. I encouraged the girls, like, hey, this is your value. Your value is not how you look. It's not showing off your body parts and all these things, you're not an object. And so even back then, I always had, if we're talking decades ago, I've always had this thing of wanting to encourage females and helping them know their identity in Christ. And so as I'm doing that, as I'm, a strength coach, my ex used to play at San Diego. And so this is a scenario, and I don't think I can get this done in 10 minutes. I might have to pause it, but we'll see. We'll see where we go. So this is what was going on. So here I'm a strength coach. He is debating me, debating my Christianity. And during this time, we're developing a friendship. So he's done as a college athlete. He's getting ready for the NFL. I'm helping him more because what happened was after his season, he's getting ready for the NFL. He had to put on about 15 pounds. And so what my job was with, my boss giving me the assignment, hey, I want you to acclimate him to the weight gain. So we had to go running more. We had to do stuff more together. So we established more of a friendship. During this time, no intention, nothing. There was nothing there. I didn't see him like that at all. And over time and friendship, it was okay, Lord, you know what? I'm getting tempted. I actually was Lord, take him out of my life. If you want someone to witness to him, don't use me, use a man. And so during that time, he, God kind of answered my prayers. Here he goes to Green Bay. We're still friends. We weren't anything. And, there were times to be honest, we were tempted. There were times when we did stuff, but I was no, I don't want to do this. He's not a Christian. I don't want that kind of relationship. He goes to Green Bay. He gets saved. And during that time, so this is his second year in the league. And all of a sudden it's he's we're seeing that, oh my gosh, what was a friendship is turning into something more. And we're seeking God on this, and so he's saying to me, we went through premarital counseling. So, gosh, I don't want to age myself, but whatever. This is the summer of 2001 where, we both are realizing, oh, okay, God, you have more for us. I just knew that God was saying he's the one. And so, we're having premarital counseling. We're both agreed, let's get married after the season. And after, the 2001 season, he goes to training camp. He's calling me up and saying, Eileen, I need you out here. We need to get married now. And if you knew his personality, he's very persistent. And I'm hey, I can't go until I know God. And that's my thing. It's I have to hear from God about major decisions. I wish I would do that with all decisions. And unfortunately I don't, but this is obviously a major decision. And so I was I can't go out of pressure. I need to know that God is saying it's time to go. And I said, if I do go out of pressure, and when we fall into hard times, I'll resent you. I'll be unsure, so all those things. And so it's interesting. I said that to him. And 2 weeks later, I remember waking up on a Tuesday morning and I knew God was saying it's time to go. And I put my 2-week resignation in. I give it to my boss, who had no idea what was going on. He didn't know that there was any sort of relationship dynamics except friendship with me and my ex. And no one knew. And we weren't trying to be secretive. There was just nothing to talk about, we just didn't think anything was there. And so as we're announcing, hey, we're going to get married, it was a shock to everybody. And at the same time, the people that knew us, as shocking as it was oh, okay. And it was, there was support there. The thing was with the people that didn't know us or that didn't know, one was his parents, a lot of people on his side of things, which of course is understandable, protective people, his high school coach, different people that didn't know me, his parents, they're thinking from their point of view, because they didn't realize we were friends for over 4 years, that we knew each other for over 4 years. They're thinking, wait, okay, our son, this guy is all of a sudden he's blowing up in the NFL. Who's this older person? Because I'm 4.5 years older. Who is this older person that's coming on the scene? And so according to people that didn't know me, there was a fear that I was this gold digger. And so here, as we're wanting to be obedient, I said, like, I didn't want to get married then. I wanted I wanted to work with my athletes during that fall season. I wanted to obey the Lord. And so when I knew God was saying it's time to go, I stopped everything. I left my family, I left my church, I left my job, I left all the things that I knew that was about me. I left all that out of obedience to the Lord. And here, I'm choosing to get married, and it was supposed to be a celebration, but I knew that with the people that didn't know us, there was almost like this like somber spirit, like, oh my gosh, like it was scary to them. Again, I understand because they didn't know me, and like, shoot, I can understand if same thing happened to one of my kids, and all of a sudden, just that same situation. I understand. As if you are a pro athlete wife or an ex or a girlfriend or whatever, I know that you understand what I'm saying when it comes to that whole thing with the mother-in-law. There's definitely mother-in-law stories. There's concerns. Again, this is your baby. Totally get it. And so with that, we chose to be obedient to the Lord. And we also chose, okay, we're not going to have a big wedding right now. Let's do it right. That was our main focus. And so we got married during the season. I literally get on a plane. I arrived to Green Bay at 11 a.m. We're married by 5 p.m. So obviously no big wedding. It was a side chapel. It didn't know anybody. Like, it was like 2 guys on the team. A pastor at the time I didn't know. And so that whole thing of like, okay, this is not about me. This is about being obedient to the Lord and honoring God and doing things the right way. And the whole concept about not about me is it takes, there's just different journeys with that theme. And so this is what I'm going to continue to tell you. So that's what happened in October of 2001. As I get there, I realize it's not about me. This is about him. This is his world. I'm now just a wife at the time because I didn't know anybody. I didn't have purpose. I didn't know what I was doing. I literally was like, okay, Lord, like my role is to be wife. Like, show me how. Soon after that, we got pregnant. And so this whole thing of like, oh, we're gonna have a big wedding. Like, we kind of were like, okay, we have to put that off longer. And so in 2002, December of 2002, we had our firstborn. So there's reasons for this. Like, we had him after midnight. So this is December 1st of 2002. We had him early morning on that Sunday morning. He plays Sunday. And then by Sunday evening, I get a call from him, and he tells me that his mom died in a car accident or a car crash. And so it's like, I mean, if you can only imagine, like the joy of having our firstborn right away was tainted by the death of his mom. And I know you can understand that. I know that, like, it's just like, wow, what do you do? And so, even when I talk about this thing, it's like, I remember wrestling with it. I'm like, I don't want to sound insensitive. And I know that during that time, it was super hard for me. It was like, Lord, like these occasions that are supposed to be joyous occasions, like, God help me, because I feel like even in her death, it's like I feel robbed of the things I'm supposed to celebrate. And I really had to get with God. And it may sound selfish. It was just a struggle, I mean, just think about it. Like here, a marriage and everybody like has the idea of, when you're young, you have like, I know for me, I would draw pictures of big wedding dress and all these things and having a fancy wedding. And I didn't do that. I didn't have that. And then of course, like, you think that, or I thought I was, and got pregnant. And then as soon as, his mom passed away, I was like, no, there's no way. Like, that's not even like, that wasn't even in the radar anymore. And so, so through that, actually, even before that, like before she passed away, there's a couple stories. Shoot, I forgot these stories. So this whole not about me thing. So like I told you, we got married on a Friday. Sunday, he has a game. Sunday evening, we're at the grocery store. So this is right after we get married. We're at the grocery store, and he's sharing Christ with someone. And we're there for hours. And I remember thinking like, okay, like I want to go home. We just got married. And at the same time, I was thinking, this is not about me. Like who am I? Who's sharing Christ, And, I know there's a balance in that. But at the time I was like, okay, it's not about me. Even through the dynamics again, before, not only after we had our baby, but beforehand. And again, as a pro-wife, you understand this. My ex and I would be talking at a restaurant. We'd be talking on the plane. All of a sudden we'd be interrupted. And I would literally say out loud, it's not about me, or who am I? And so I was reinforcing, it's not about me. It's not about me. And so, I have that. I have the dynamics of, of dealing with having a child and not being able to celebrate that. In that part of things, my first Mother's Day was my ex's first Mother's Day without her. And so I just had to, kind of, it's like you want to celebrate as a mom, like, oh my gosh, I'm a mother now. But I had to kind of just go, it's not about me. The joy of my son's first birthday was tainted because, again, understandably so and compassionately, that was the first, day he didn't have his grandma. My ex didn't have his mom. And so it was the same thing. It was like, okay, like every joyous occasion was tainted by, a sorrow and a sadness. And so through that part of life and through just being a part of the NFL world and then having kids and, just not really having my thing, not having, a job, not knowing, that many people, those kind of things. It was a lot of that whole concept of it's not about me. And I wrestled with that. And at the same time, I was totally okay with it because I know it's not my life is not about me. And at the time when we were going through season, when we were going through football, I loved it. I loved the joy of being mom. I still do. And there's a reason why I say I loved. And I loved being a wife to my husband. I loved serving him. I loved it. But this is what happened. When he started following that cult thing, the concept of a wife, the concept of a woman, the whole thing, I've talked about this before. He said, and the belief in this cult or this teaching was women weren't created in the image of God. Women are created to serve her spouse only. She's to go to heaven depending on her obedience to her spouse. And so this whole thing of not about me turned into you really don't matter. There's no value. There's no identity in you. And so during this time, I struggled. I was like, Lord, who am I? Like, what am I made for? I remember thinking, like, do I have a purpose? Like, why am I even alive? I felt like I wanted to die. And I remember being in the car. I remember thinking, Lord, like, can you just take me out? Like, I can't take this anymore. Like, it was never good enough. I felt like everything revolved around being this perfect wife, and no one's ever perfect. But when you're put down and you're told you're not good enough and you're supposed to be holy as God is holy, which is taken out of context, I just remember thinking, like, this is never going to be good enough. I'm never going to be good enough. Lord, take me out. And just not knowing my identity in Christ, that whole concept of not about me turned into a denial of me and a who am I? And so throughout this thing of, that theme, God had to come in and interject and say, hey, it is not about you, but it's about me in you. It's about Christ in you. And he had to take me at my lowest point, and he had to remind me, this is who you are. This is who I created you to be. This is your identity is in me. And so, yes, it's not about you, but it is me and you. And it's not about denying yourself completely that you, let's put it this way. I don't know what it is. And I've said this before, but it's almost as if when a mom or when a woman becomes a wife and a mom, it's almost as if the more you like are a martyr, it's almost like the better you are, or like the holier you are, or the better you are. It's like there's more praise to you when you deny yourself completely. And that's not what God calls you to do. So I'm saying all that as I'm summing it up. And like I said, I have tried so many times to do this video. I want to encourage you guys. No, it's not about you, but it is not about denying you. You are called to a purpose. There's seasons in life, in motherhood too, because I'm addressing this because, like, if you feel that your identity and your role is just mom, then whether it's the diaper season, or like the teenage season, at some point, if your identity is only wrapped around that, then when your kids go off and we're supposed to send them off like arrows, then the struggle could be that, okay, if my life and my world is wrapped around that, then when they're off and they leave and cleave to their own spouses, then I have no more identity. I have no more purpose. And that's not true. And so these are things like I want you guys to reflect on. And I'm going to continue to encourage you guys to talk about these different things. These are things I want you to think of through this process of like thinking like, it's not about me. It's not about my identity. It's like, so, total self-denial, as God was equipping me to know who I was in him and to know my role, to know my purpose, to know that there's seasons, you go through motherhood, there's different roles, even as a wife. He was showing me and reminding me, I've given you gifts outside of that. I have, like, Eileen, I've given you the gift of writing. Don't stop that. Like, nurture that. So this thing, there was a time too where I felt like to actually spend money on myself to take a class, to take a writing class, or to learn about, different things, to invest in this, just doing this podcast stuff, like that was like oh no, you don't do that. But, and then also on top of that, this whole, thing with being in the post-West world and having money, and then being a Christian, I felt that the only way that we are to give was to give financially. And God was showing me, Eileen, yes, you are to do that. You give, but you are just as much a gift. And so, Eileen, invest in you so that you can nurture the skill set, the gifts that I've given you, so that you can continue to grow. You can continue to help other people in the ways that I've helped you. So whether speaking, writing, all these different things, God is calling me to a purpose that is bigger than I realize. It's for sure wife, it's for sure mom, but it is beyond that as well. So these are things I want you to leave you with. For me, like I said, God was saying, hey, invest in you because you are a gift. And you have a whole lot more to offer than what you think. And so he was showing me the different things, like 3 things that I want you guys to think of is, what are you good at? What has always stirred in you? What do you like? We're all gifted in something, and God doesn't just, it's not like, okay, once you get married, hey, put that on the shelf and just, say bye to whatever dreams, whatever purposes, whatever skills you have. God still desires you to use those things. For me, writing has always been a thing for me. And it's not until I'm 51, it's not until my 50s where I'm finally, being able to write books, being able to, help out in different ways I never, thought. And so I want you guys to think about this. What am I good at? What fills me? What encourages me? What am I good at that I know stirs and helps other people? So I want you to think about that. I want you to think about what you're burdened with. For me, like I said, have the gift of writing, I also have a burden, a passion to help women, as you could see it. That's why I bring up the strength coach all the time. I've always had this passion to help women and help females see their value, because I know I didn't know my value growing up, and that's why I slept around. That's why I did all those things. And so I want people to know their value. I want women to know their value. And the third thing is your, where are you creative? Where, so again, for me, it's writing, it's being able to speak, it's saying that like there's different things. There's the burdens, your passions, and your gifting. When those three come together, that's a sweet spot. And so I encourage you guys to think about that. You may not be in that time frame right now. Like if you're in baby season, totally get it, but don't totally lay down your gifts. Don't make sure you do things that fulfill you. I know that there was a time like I liked to do, and I didn't realize this, a couple things. I went into a paint and pottery place. I was in a MOPS group, Mothers of Preschoolers. It was through church. And so I remember that they went out to, one of those paint and pottery places. Oh my gosh, I loved doing that. And so that was something that it's like, okay, like I still like to do that. Like, don't let it completely gather dust, and that it's a bad thing if you think, what is it that I like to do? What is it that I'm good at? Lord, at some point, maybe not now, Lord, you've filled me with these gifts. You're stirring in this heart. Like there's these passions here. Lord, in your perfect timing, help me to nurture those things and use them. And so I don't want you guys to get to that place of feeling like it's not about me, that you just think that your life is only about other people. It is not about you. It's God in you, but it's you being used by God for the purposes that he has for you. So I encourage you with that. I will stop. Thank God, because seriously, I'm done with this one. I don't know why I told you. I don't know why I could not get this video out, but this is just the starting point. And this is what this whole podcast thing is. This is what I'm writing about. This is to encourage you. You are needed. You are valued. You're not only needed as a wife and as a mom. And that for sure, again, I never want to be a mom and a wife. Like those things never end. There's different seasons and how they look. And so that is always there. But you being used beyond that, outside of that, those all work together. So I just want to encourage you guys, don't feel bad if you're thinking, hey, there's something more in me that I feel like it's like pricking or it's stirring. Wake that up. There's something there that if you say, hey God, what is that? Don't feel bad. It's okay to start thinking I have dreams. I have skills. I have things. Lord, can you use them? Or Lord, can you direct me? Can you show me? Lord, what is this about? Lord, I still want to do these things. And do this as you delight in the Lord. And as you seek him first. So seek him first, all things will be added. Delight in the Lord and he'll give you the desires of your heart. When you keep seeking him and you just keep pursuing him, allow him to start, waking up those things in you that you're called to do. So don't deny yourself completely. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, there's scripture to talk about that, but I want you to know that God has a purpose for you, bigger than what you think, bigger than what you realize, and someone needs your voice. All right, I will end. You guys have a good time until next episode. Bye.
Until next time, love well, celebrate your strength, and discover the new things you are capable of. You are a light in the lives of those around you, and no night is too dark for you to find your way.